All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, Joe, my host, Nick, and Dan. And gentlemen, it is the Liverpool match review. That's right. We are away at Anfield after a week off. Definitely no shortage of pods in that week, though, Dan. We kept it coming. So if anything, people are like, these guys are back again.
No, there's a lot of love for what we're doing right now. There's a lot of appreciation for the work rate that we're showing, the speed at which we're producing, a little Mudryk-esque, some might say, Nick. So we are just dropping the pods as quickly as possible to stay abreast of what's been going on at Chelsea. And we hope that the listeners have been enjoying it.
Look, if you blinked on Saturday, you missed a new one. We have a Madueke special that Dan and CFC Central put out. So go back, listen to that. It's a really exciting profile of player. It's a different type of player than what we currently have. So go give the love there. And look, we went through a whole bunch of stuff. We had a transfer special with Adam Newson last week. We did a bunch of Mudryk stuff. Like it's a big week. Hopefully you get stuck in. We have another big week coming. We have an academy update that we like to call the Cobham Crew coming later this week. Transfer special with Matt Law. We're not going to be short for words in any of these weeks, Brandon. It's a big month.
Yeah, I think Dan will get February off after the way this has gone. Poor Sam. So obviously, we'll be talking about, yes, it's a draw, but potentially signs of progress. Mykhailo Mudryk is a problem, but not for Chelsea, thankfully. And then lastly, Chelsea needs, before the next time we see them play again, essentially, what are those needs? But before getting to that, Nick, the London trip is coming up very quickly. Time is running out for those of you interested. The time has come. Make a decision. Pull the trigger. Come join us. It's officially going to be amazing.
Yeah. So we talked with our friends at XL Tours this week, and we're kind of like, because we didn't put a hard deadline on the registration page, which I know we've had some questions about. But essentially you have, as you're listening to this on the 23rd, 8 more days to register. We're calling the 31st at midnight, our time in the States. A kind of hard deadline. If you're in the process, we'll extend it for you by that point, but at least get your interest registered by 131 to register for the March group trip. I mean, it's only essentially a month after that we're going. So, you got to
40 days away as we're recording, 40 days from today.
Got to get your flights, got to get a whole bunch of stuff figured out. But we're extending a promo discount for these last handful of days. So you're going to get $100 off automatically at checkout. So just know that. Your hotel in Kensington sorted, right? It's steps away from a delicious Dishoom breakfast even. So I don't know if you're interested in that. Look, match tickets to Leeds and Dortmund with a Chelsea women's match TBD. We don't know yet if they're playing in a cup final or at home to Brighton. So we're going to get those sorted too. And we're going to include a little bit of a special surprise in terms of merch as well, and some live pod experiences. It might be our 1000th episode while we're there. Just a sneaky hint as to what might happen there. So get stuck in. It's going to be a trip that you will not soon forget, I promise you. And if you are anywhere near excited about Mudryk, there's a strong chance we're going to see him played in those matches. So for those who have registered, my last note is that I'm going to be sending an email by the time that you've listened to this episode with some details, some exciting announcements and stuff like that as well. So we're really excited. But if you need to register, get stuck in these last 8 days.
Yeah. Contact us. Again, you're going to pretty much be hanging out with the London is Blue pod universe. We have a lot of London based friends there. Rick, Ollie, Tweeds, Phil, Jesse, everyone's going to be around at some point. So it's also just a great time to get to know all of the people, put a face to a name, as well as, the Fancast friends and all the other friends from Twitter that we connect with on a weekly basis. So let us move on to the 3-word match review. Dan, always want to know how the people are feeling. I would say cautiously optimistic, it seems.
That was about the vibe. We had Tana with the baddies of baddie.
That's great. That's really
Jam
nice.
with the Ukrainian Sonic. Gabriel with the tie your shoelaces. Zarly with the this was refreshing, and it was the gif of Mudryk tip-tapping around several Liverpool defenders before taking a shot that eventually went into the side netting. Jason and Techie combined for Thirst Trap Mudryk. Yeah, Def Jux Daddy with the trust the process, including the GIF in it as well, which again, extra points for a GIF. Because it is a gift. McLeasy with the Mykhailo, just dropping it. It's having to accentuate it perfectly there. Galen with the robbed by Liverpool. And then he also had a second one, which I think is important to consider as well, too. 500 for Dave that we'll talk about in the one extra stat. And then Carlo just really making sure, or Carlos rather, making sure that we didn't lose. Underlining the important part of this, we did not lose. So
it's Mykhailo, not Mykhailo.
I think. When you say it, Mykhailo, right?
That's what I'm asking. Is that the?
I think we're missing a consonant in there.
Yeah, but I think it was. I think it was a pun.
I'm checking because on the NAS pod, he goes, "Oh, well, I learned how to pronounce his name," and then immediately proceeds to not say how to pronounce his name. He just left it. So I got issues with NAS that I'll clear it up and we'll come back. Anyways, I put what a tease, right? Whether it was Mudryk, the team playing in general, obviously the goal that was called off, which once you really analyze it, you're like, this is stupid. This is an overcomplication that's unnecessary. Between João Felix's thing, you're like, okay, is this a new team post January transfer window? I am absolutely teased. I want to see that there's some staying power, some consistency coming. Same with Badiashile. So I feel teased and I'm a little bit excited about it. Nick, what about you?
Mudryk, they wrote.
It's really good.
Thank you. Really all good. Of us, most of us, actually.
Okay.
All of us, really.
Dan?
Mid-off met expectations because this was a mid-table clash and we got exactly what a mid-table clash should look like. Not perfect football, bad attempts on goal, defenses somewhat struggling at times. I would say ours is way better than theirs, and attacks that just couldn't get it done. And this was actually laddered really interestingly in the morning when it went from a 0-0 draw to a 1-1 draw to a 2-2 draw in the first three matches the Premier League had of the day. Very interesting. I don't know. I like that symmetry.
Yeah, I would say this when I have a fair few Liverpool friends. I don't love to admit that out loud, but the overall vibe after the match in all the group texts was, well, both teams really aren't good. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's kind of hard to argue. Yeah.
I read that as Madoff met expectations. I was like, wow, that's dark. We just watched the Bernie Madoff stuff on Netflix. So
nope.
I found that to be quite interesting. Anyways, just a reminder, if you're looking for a great Chelsea community, check us out on Patreon through our in Discord through our Patreon, Apple Podcasts and Spotify 5-star reviews really do help support the pod, and it costs you nothing. So we'd appreciate the support there. But it is time to jump in to the match review. That's right. It was Liverpool this past Saturday, the 21st of January, that window almost closing. We're at the Premier League at Anfield. Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0. There were no goals, but we will go ahead and kick over to the fifth stand up for whatever review highlights that they do have. So again, if you haven't downloaded the official app from Chelsea FC, do that. We appreciate they let us use their content for our podcast. We'll be right back. All right. So anyways, lineup time. Let's see how we got to 0-0, Dan.
Well, the Premier League website listed as a 3-4-2-1, but that's not really how it worked on the day. So Kepa was between the sticks, and it was Trev Chalobah, Benoit Badiashile, Thiago Silva, and Marc Cucurella as your defenders. And then when you kind of went forward in the midfield, it was Jorginho, Hakim Ziyech, and Lewis Hall, combining players into one. It's like a transformer of Chelsea.
Someone misses Reece James.
Yeah, jeez.
Who doesn't? And then you had Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, and Kai Havertz as your forward line. Again, really, was that how it worked out? You did see Cesar Azpilicueta come onto the pitch along with Mykhailo Mudryk, Chukwuemeka, and then Aubameyang all making appearances. No David Dr. Fofana coming on, no Ruben Loftus-Cheek, no Bashar Humphreys, no Koulibaly, and no Bettinelli coming in, which, look, if you have a goalkeeper coming in as a substitute, that's a problem. So that's actually a good thing.
I read a phonetic thing yesterday. There were many threads on how to pronounce Badiashile, but I believe it is Badiashile, not Badiashile, just as a note. Now, everyone's going to come for me and say, no, you idiot, that's wrong. But I think Badiashile is correct.
So that's a bummer.
Just the baddie. We can call Benny the baddie.
Yeah.
Badiashile just has a little extra spice to it. Some of the top line stats, Chelsea with 52.5% possession, so pretty even on the day. We had 11 shots, only 2 on target. Liverpool had 15 shots, only 3 on target, so pretty poor from both teams. We had 21 tackles to their 18, so plenty of getting stuck in. We had 32 clearances, though, to their 15. 5 corners apiece, 1 offsides to their 5, 1 yellow card to their 3, and 9 fouls conceded to their 16. The XG trending better, still, you know, a little bit to be desired. Chelsea with the 1.6 XG. To Liverpool's 1.09, and we are always ahead of them in that XG race. One random stat from @Satman Dave saying players to make 500 Chelsea appearances. Dave, he's now on the list. He is at 500. John Holland's above him with 509. Peter Benetti, the cat, with 539. Ron Chapa Harris at 609. Frank Lampard, 648. And John Terry, Captain Leader Legend, at 715. Nick, Dave, one of your favorite players, Assist-Biliqueta, Don Bayou, continues to go from record to record at this club. It will be impossible to ever forget what Cesar Azpilicueta has done for Chelsea.
Yeah, build a statue, put him in the Hall of Fame, whatever you got to do. I mean, he deserves it. I mean, obviously, current form aside, you know, I think that's a legend of a player. He has literally won it all. John Terry did not win all of the trophies that Cesar Azpilicueta did in his time at Chelsea. And, you know, it also makes you think about how many more matches John Terry played at 715 than 500. But, you know, let that go. I love this guy. He is the epitome of a hard worker. He's the epitome of maximizing, you know, his God-given ability. And he is a true ambassador for this club out in the public and doing really important work across the board to foster a more inclusive environment. So has navigated an ownership change, has navigated a bunch of crazy changes in the way that the club operates from a transfer perspective, and you know, the growth of the youth academy and embedding those players in. I mean, you just can't say enough about who he is as a leader, who he is as a man. So love you, Dave.
Yeah, he just did the campaign with Eriksson and Harder.
Well, the interview, the hangout that he was on, we talked about many different things, but allyship kind of at the top of them. That was really well done.
And quite honestly, look, tucking in your shirt's not really fashionable these days. He still pulls it off. So like, proper respect to him on that one. Anyways, we're going to take our first break. When we get back, we're going right into it. Yes, it's a draw, but signs of progress. So thank you to the sponsors for financially supporting the show, and we'll be right back. All right, so that's how we kind of see it, right, gentlemen? It was a draw. We got a point. You know, as the announcers even said in the broadcast, it's a decent point for Chelsea, aka away at Anfield. Apparently, is not what it used to be. Potter had a full week off, which is something he has not had, and the Chelsea website is making sure everybody knew that in their kind of pre-match coverage. He got a full week with the players, started to get some people back from injury. Obviously, still missing an entire starting 11 of people. Joao Felix, after a bright 58 minutes, still suspended. Dan, you know, if you want to look at the ratings from just best people top to bottom, might kind of surprise you that Aretha Balaga was a 7.8, the highest Chelsea player. Silva was 7.5, Badiashile 7.5, and Cucurella was 7.2, with Havertz a 7.3. Those are our 5-6 highest rated players on the day.
The defense did a really great job. So I'm not surprised that a lot of them were highly rated. I would tell you, I think Thiago Silva was underlined the best player almost any game this season, but in particular was the best player in this game, hands down, and just how he continues to defy age and defy expectations of what he should be doing at this point in his career. He is just absolutely immense. And I think Nick, in general, the whole defense was on a really good day, particularly when, even though it wasn't a great Liverpool side, the best Liverpool side, we aren't also the best Chelsea side at the moment. And so to go to a place that typically hasn't always given us the favor of result or the favor of officiating, it was a good day out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd start this section by saying, if you were to choose a pathway right now, I think you'd, as shocking as this might seem, given our season, if you look at where Liverpool are, I think you'd rather be us than Liverpool right now. They're a point or two ahead of us, right? We'll look at the table later, but I think with what Chelsea's done in the transfer market and the beginning of the evolution that we're under, Liverpool are going to change owners at the end of this year and have to go through that process again, right? Like, so we're going to be a full season ahead and kind of what the rebuild looks like. And it kind of feels to me like Klopp's nearing the end of his cycle there. I mean, there are people calling for his head, which I think is absolutely ludicrous considering he's been the best Liverpool manager since whoever it was in the 80s. It kind of feels like that cycle is coming to an end. And, you know, as we found out, there's no guarantee that the next one's going to be brighter than the one you just ended, right? So there's a lot of work to do. But if you look at some of the performances yesterday by some of their top players versus some of our younger players that were in the squad, I think Chelsea are probably just at the, I think we might have bottomed out and are on the way back up. And I think Liverpool are still on maybe the decline. And, I think that was indicative of a lot of things, but certainly the way that our defense played the likes of Mo Salah and Gakpo really shined to me. Badiashile really stuck out, I think was a calming influence. We talked about this on our, unfortunately, tech troubled Twitter spaces right after the game. But I think, Brandon, at least to me, that's how I left the match yesterday. It's not to say that, we're going to finish higher than them in the table or whatever by the end of the season. But I think if you were to kind of pick a trajectory, you'd pick us.
Without a doubt, Liverpool feel stale. They feel tired. Chelsea are refreshed. There's a lot of faces coming in. We know that the project is on the up right now, where Liverpool, they're just trying to add one big piece a season and kind of, kick on. And it's not there. Mo Salah is a shadow of himself. They used to be able to have Thiago just ping a long ball and one of their three runners, would be there. They have Harvey Elliott, Gakpo, and Salah up there. Gakpo had two really good chances. And all he did, he just kind of put his foot through it and leaned back and skied him, thankfully. Like he should have had a goal yesterday. The fact they have like an 18-year-old Spanish kid, Bajcetic, in the middle, like kind of pulling strings, it just shows that they do have some young players. But James Milner right back, right? Talk about getting toasted and roasted and turned around again. Like they're definitely not in a good spot, especially if they can't keep Van Dijk healthy. Now back to our positives, right? I left off one name from top players, right? Like you guys have Silva, you have Badiashile, you have Trevor. Jorginho was by far and away the highest rated player, almost an 8. I looked at some of his stats. He won 3 of his 5 tackles. He had 9 recoveries, 4 interceptions. He was 8 of 10 of his ground duels, and he even won an aerial duel. His passing, though, was a bit shit from where he's normally at. He was at 79% accuracy, 45 of 57. Obviously, he only had one chance created and an expected XG of 0.01, which is nothing. But I guess, what did you guys make of Jorginho in this day? He had Lewis Hall next to him, for the first chunk of the game. Ziyech on one side and then Cucurella on the other side. Do you think he was able to excel because of how well settled the back line seemed to be with Trevo, Silva, and Badiashile in a back 3? Do you feel like that was a big help? Was it Lewis Hall's energy and Gallagher's energy around him to kind of track back all the time?
I mean, I would say this, like, I wouldn't look at this as like a standard formation that we throw out there. I think it was that like asymmetric or inverted 3-4-3, but it really kind of played like a back 4 for most of the game. Like obviously Cucurella was further upfield than Trev ever went. So if you kind of like angle it one way, you can kind of see how we were deployed. But that came with risks, right? I mean, it really meant that Badiashile had to play well in moments one-on-one against Mo Salah, right? And that is not an easy thing to do. But I think where I throw Jorginho into the mix is that he was able to do some of the things that I would expect for Jorginho, right? Defensive things that you just mentioned are obviously critical, but I think some of the passing out of tight situations yesterday was really good. Liverpool obviously liked to press, but they also didn't press Jorginho ever. Like, I mean, it was we know that's the way you kind of beat him when he's in the lineup. They just refused to do it because I don't think Bajcetic had the legs to necessarily chase him down. I think those are very similar players that they want space, they want to pass, and that's about it. So, Dan, that's kind of how I felt about it. It was certainly a good performance. I think he played pretty good against Palace, but this was better than that performance. I think the question that I have is, can he do it, with 10 days off roughly, right? Can he keep doing this at a level? We haven't seen the best Kovacic. We haven't seen Conte in months. Is this a player who can actually step up and help us, kind of advance up the table?
Yeah, I mean, Kovacic not available due to kind of some tightness, kind of that upper leg area, and then that's also one of the areas in the many pods that we've talked about that Chelsea are looking to see if they can reinforce before the end of the transfer window. We saw Lewis Hall maybe struggle a bit on the day in the midfield, kind of really under pressure for kind of fair bits of it, and he was one of kind of the first substitutes that did kind of make his way off for another to come on. I think in general, the defense was really, really good. The midfield was okay, and then the attack could have been better. But I think this is what we talked about before: is like you can do something by having a solid defense. Like if your players can trust that the defense is going to stand up, be accounted for, kill attacks, get the ball forward again, which is what Badiashile and Thiago Silva are really, really good at, advancing the ball forward. There's some really fun cross-pitch passes that they were willing to take on an attempt, which was quite fun to see. That is going to give you the confidence to start going forward and attacking and make things happen. And really, for that first 30 to 40 minutes, you basically camped out in Liverpool's half of the pitch. And part of that was our defense was doing a really great job. We kind of had more of a mid block set up to really cut out. And so I think also that probably impacted the midfield's creativity, is that in general, they were there to stop the passing lanes and to make sure that we could try to have less space to recycle the ball into when they did cause the disruption. And so I think in general, the game plan worked well. The subs worked well, maybe outside of Aubameyang. And so I think in general, this was a really good Potter performance. It was a really good defensive performance. And then there were some individual performances surrounding that were even better than maybe the team's performance, like Silva and Badiashile.
Yeah, I mean, it was 5 total shots on target between the two teams. There was not a whole lot of offensive firepower in this one, but I think Chelsea did limit them through that like weird midfield configuration, Brandon. That's, certainly a role Jorginho played.
Yeah, Chelsea, well, the shots were not great from either team. Chelsea had 4 big chances created. Obviously, we missed all 4. Liverpool had no big chances. So, again, defensively, really good. Statman Dave breaking down Thiago's game, saying 100, it's funny, he said, Thiago Silva's game by numbers versus Chelsea. Sir, he's our player. This would be against Liverpool. Yeah. 112 touches, 91% pass accuracy, 82 passes completed, 6 clearances, 4 long balls completed, 3 blocks, 3 interceptions, 1 key pass. And then his buddy, Benoit, right next to him, 99 touches, 88% pass accuracy, 75 passes completed, 7 ball recoveries, 3 clearances, 2 interceptions, a key pass, and a big chance created. Rock at the back, coulda, shoulda scored, if we're being honest, could have had the game winner. But immediately they're talking about how much Thiago does for this young defender coming in, trying to adjust to a new league. I was listening to the Adam Newsom pod this morning as I was doing some chores and stuff, Nick, and even Adam, when you guys were talking about Koulibaly and what's his future and how Koulibaly's like, hey, man, I'm going to need time to adjust. Benoit is like, I'm here. We might as well just figure it out right away. And he's dove right in. 21-year-old on one side of Thiago, and you got a 23-year-old Trevo on the other side, and then a ripe 38-year-old in the middle, kind of deploying his men wherever he needs. This is a good sign. And what is it? The second game in a row that Benoit's played? I mean, at this point, you don't really know why you would take him out unless he gets tired or something happens.
No, I think Koulibaly's going to stay on the bench here for quite some time. And I think the reason for that is that there is a calmness about the way that Badiashile's going about his craft that is really refreshing. Obviously, he came out with quotes after the game and credited the whole back line and and the team for helping him get settled in, but he specifically credited Thiago Silva, who did a lot of mid-game coaching yesterday. If you go back and watch that, there's a lot of pointing and a lot of positional work. There's one, I believe there's one, if my brain's memorizing things correctly, the one set piece where Thiago just went and like placed him in front of another player, and I think it was Gakpo for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, the guy's just been lights out for us. I mean, he started off a little rough in that Palace game, gave the ball away a couple of times. And he missed some progressive passes yesterday, but I mean, we also haven't seen many progressive passes from our center backs this year. So it's nice to even see him attempted, let alone completed. I think the moment that stood out for me on this one, Dan, is that late in the game, the ball's kind of getting knocked around a lot, and he steps up, calmly heads it to Jorginho, who passes it out to the wing, right, and gets us out of trouble. And I think we've seen a lot this season where Chelsea just get really nervous and then the ball bounces wrong and then it's a goal, right? And I think just taking a second to like calm it down, in the midst of all this chaos happening and just nod the ball down it was perfect, right, to Jorginho where he could do something with it. That really, really sticks out to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was very bold of Jurgen Klopp in the later parts of this match to bring on Darwin Nunez and go down to playing with one less man on the pitch to try and help Chelsea out. But that also happened in this game too. I mean, actually, we were at more of a disadvantage at the start of the game than we were at the end of the game when it came to having to hunker down and defend in earnest. And I think maybe that's because also after the half, Brandon, one new player made a appearance, and that was ultimately a literal game changer by coming on.
Yeah, I mean, force the transition all you want, Dan. I'll do it when I'm ready. But the last thing I just want to say on Badiashile, if you want to kind of get into the details of the game and technical side, he's a left-footed player. The passing angles that he creates, his body's far more open than when we had like Rudiger as a right-sided center back, even Koulibaly at times, like even to a right-footed player that has a good left, he just is going to open up the field. A lot of times it was always going back across where he came from. Now we can play out down that left side, which we saw a lot of success with. So the barn burner that Dan is talking about, obviously Mudryk coming on, I think that Potter pretty much set the expectation we are going to see him at some point. That's also seems to be the MO. Sign new player, immediately put them in for some minutes, and let's see how they do. You could say that putting in a new player against Liverpool, they haven't really trained with the team. I guess he had the full week. A bit interesting, but he looked good. Minus his first touch, which I've already forgotten about. His first touch was dreadful. But after that, he immediately calmed down into the game. And he had quite a deft touch and a soft touch. Is he very direct? Yes. Is it working? Yes. Was it James Milner? Yes. But
it was funny to get the alert in game from Sky Sports News that James Milner had decided to retire.
Yeah.
That's why he came off the pitch. He wasn't injured. He was just done. I'm done with football. I met Mykhailo Mudryk and I am
too old for this shit.
Look, it's his worst nightmare. But he came on, he got 35 minutes. He got a good run out in this one. I guess, my perspective from there is this is to me like a Joao Felix. I'm seeing a lot of exciting things. Not only is he direct, he'll take a shot, the tight dribbling in the box stand, right? The soft touches, even the combinations where him and Chukwuemeka towards the end were having these combinations in stride. It just missed the passes behind Carnes a little bit. You kind of saw a little bit of everything minus the end product. But like, again, me going back to, I felt super teased. If this is, again, what we're getting into, what an electric player that we've landed for $180 million, by the way.
The reminder, he's not played competitive football since November. That is the thing to keep in mind, that when you looked at his performance yesterday, that is with a lot of rust on it. And if he's doing that with a lot of rust at Anfield against Liverpool, who again, we have talked about the fact that is not the Liverpool of old, so they're more of a less defensively resolute side, it was still a very impressive 35 minutes that had people stand up, take notice. understand maybe why this player profile of someone who is more creative, who can make those quick touches and really play himself into a position, doesn't necessarily always need a partner in crime to make it happen. Nick, I think that was the real exciting thing. And like, we've not had a lot of individual brilliance in this Chelsea side. It has required a lot of hard work to come up with goals for quite some time, and to potentially see glimpses of somebody who might just be able to get it done on their own occasionally. Oh, that is breath of fresh air.
It was the Eden Hazard versus West Ham dribble at the top of the box. I mean, is what like he gave you flashes of. Obviously, Nick, we're not saying he's Eden Hazard equivalent. We're just saying that, again, someone who could potentially go from standing still to gone in seconds is so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's electric, right? So it's a threat to start the game. So, your defense is definitely is already kind of thinking, oh, I have to figure out how to contain this, kind of nutso player. But then I think on top of that, it's the thing that we don't really have if Christian's not on his game, which is just this individual. I'm going to take you on. I'm going to take 3 people on, and I'm going to win. That little dribble across the little, the little kind of 1-2s and the cut over to Carnes, like he creates space for other players. That is the magic of someone like him, right? To me, that is where we're going to start to see the goal production open up. It might not be him scoring all of them, but if Carnes takes a different sort of touch yesterday, we probably get one in that move, right?
Yeah.
He could have certainly cut it across goal instead of firing into the side net, but there's a lot to do with him. And I think again, we mentioned this on the spaces. He hasn't played competitive football since November because the Ukrainian league's been on a break, the World Cup, all that stuff, right? This is a real there's going to be a real betting in period needed with him. I know we're all excited, but I think with our injury luck this year, we will do well to get him on the training ground these next 10 days, to get him seeded into matches. I know everyone wants to see him from the start, against Fulham. I think we got to be extra careful. That's a long time to go without playing competitive football and just doing training sessions and stuff. So I think he's going to need to get weaned in a little bit, Dan. But to me, I mean, it's a breath of fresh air for sure.
It wouldn't surprise me, given Felix getting now this long break due to the red card challenge, Mudryk coming in, maybe another player. We got Madueke coming in as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear rumblings over the next week or so about a behind closed door friendly at some point to make sure that these players are where they need to be. And look, it'll be behind closed doors, so we'll never get the tape, just like any of the other ones that have gone shockingly well for Chelsea and apparently have wonder goals galore. But that's probably what we need to see at this point to make sure that people are ready to go, because having an understanding of how they're going to play with one another, like where is, Felix going to be on the pitch? What does that mean for, Sterling as well when he's back? What does our front line actually look like? That is a really tough question to answer. Whereas beginning of December, it was a very easy question to answer because it's like, hey, it's the body that's available. And now Potter is starting to get back into a situation where he actually has choice into who he's going to play. And that does 2 things. One, it allows us to rotate, keep people healthy, kind of reduce some of the soft tissue injuries that we keep on accumulating at a ridiculously high rate. And it also creates competition. And competition for places should, in the end, breed a squad that is hungrier, that is ready to go, ready to fight, and it will ultimately do more on the pitch together. And so I think all of that said, Brandon, to kind of echo Nick's point, we're excited about Mudryk. It was a really, really great way to end this match. The only thing that was missing was a goal or an assist, but you couldn't have asked for too much more. And then knowing and understanding that he hasn't played for a extended period of time, I think in general that probably gives us a higher grade on him for the day out.
Statman Dave broke it down: 93% pass accuracy, 28 touches, 13 passes completed, 8 of 9 final third passes completed, 4 ball recoveries, 3 of 3 tackles, 1, 2 of 3 dribbles completed, and a foul 1. Starting as he means to go on, just continuing to kind of like take the off the field hype stuff and bring it to tangible stuff on the field.
And he's posting about us on Instagram finally.
Yeah.
So I think we can all put that.
No, Nick. I was told he was unhappy.
Well,
he looks like it, you know?
Yeah. What I would say in on this, right, is if Joao Felix continues to be good, if Badiashile continues to be good, if Mudryk continues to be good, if our new signing as another attacker can, has a good start and continues to go on to good things, you're starting to see the squad kind of shape out under Graham Potter. Lewis Hall playing consistently, now even coming into the center mid. The contracts being negotiated by the club are night and day, from Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, Aubameyang to Dacho Fofana, Mudryk. What we've done with the new Badiashile attackers and defenders coming in, we might actually have assembled a stellar backroom staff, which again, it's too early to tell, but there are potential signs to say Boli has learned so much in Egbali in 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, whatever. It's from this summer, what they were negotiating, they were paying over the top, high wages, middle-ish contracts, to now getting these players on solid wages with high incentives and long-term contracts. It seems like they read like the Football Economics 101 book, and they went from like having no idea this summer to being strong operators and getting the right people in just within the next transfer window. I'm impressed just by the deal structuring so far.
23 and younger.
I think 22.7 is the average age of signing, all signings under Boli, which includes Raheem, Aubameyang, and Koulibaly.
Right. Have not yet peaked in their careers, right? Whereas you could say maybe Sterling, Aubameyang, and Koulibaly have. All high potential, all fit a profile, all on, well, not all, those three that I mentioned previously are on higher wages, but most are on relatively manageable wages. I think Mudryk's on 97 a week, which is shocking for a player of his transfer value, but I mean, it has to be like 10 times what he was making in the Ukrainian league. So I think everyone's probably happy with that. And yeah, I mean, I think the onus on Chelsea is not like, can we go buy players? Buying players is, maybe not the easiest thing in the world, but it's a lot easier than selling them if they're not high price targets. Our goal now is going to be, how do we make this, the math work on selling some of these assets that we need to move on from, and, get this team in a really great spot? Because I think you can even tell with the players that Potter selected over the last couple of matches, Aubameyang's been on the bench, right? Like Koulibaly's been on the bench. A lot of the guys who I think we expected to come in and be senior leaders on this team are not playing. And look, you could tell me really quick that, like, yeah, Lewis Hall didn't play that well yesterday. Mason Mount didn't play that well yesterday. Conor Gallagher has a lot of hustle, but maybe isn't the finished product. The results are better, man. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, Kukurea even played better yesterday. I think that's a notable thing that we didn't talk about here, is he played a lot better than we've seen in recent weeks and months. And he probably had a more difficult assignment than he did at Fulham, right? Like, or not at Fulham, previous matches, whatever. So I look at this as again, if you think that we have, and I'm going to just say this, if you think that we bottomed out somewhere in the fall winter period, I think we're probably on the way back up. It's, we might get 7th this year. We might get 8th. I don't know how it's all going to end. We might, as Dan will tell you, win the Champions League. I think that's a pretty far ranging list of possibilities personally, but like, I think you can tell where the curve starts to go up. And I think we're at the beginning of that ascent right now is how I feel about it.
Nick, in the immortal words of Stringer Bell, I want you to put the word out that we back up.
so good.
All right. Well,
Wire.
again, we talked about very, very narrow focus, one game at a time. You can only look at the next game and how you win every single one. We need to build some consistency. We need to build some momentum. I think that there's probably some mixed feelings, overall still, which is fine. But again, this would be a step in the right direction. You're now 4 points after 2 games. Okay, let's continue to earn points, continue to move on. Obviously, we just played Fulham and lost on the 12th. We turn around and play them again on February 3rd. So we're going to take our last break. When we get back, we're going to look at what's next for Chelsea and what's left to do, especially with the transfer window. So thank you to the sponsors for financially supporting the show, and be right back. All right, you guys are the ones who've been talking to all the transfer gurus, right? We've had Naz on. We've talked to Matt. We've talked to Adam Newsom. We're going to talk to Matt tomorrow. Like the ears to the ground, right? Like we've got an idea of what is happening. We got 12 days until we play Fulham at home, right? We talked about maybe missing cup games as a blessing in disguise. Potter got 6 uninterrupted days. What's he going to do with 12, right? So we'll have to see what happens. First off, Dan, over under on new signings at 2 for the rest of the month.
Ooh. 2 is the perfect number.
Sorry. I should say 1.5. I need to get better at betting. One and a half.
I mean, 2 is still a good line. I mean, you probably would take the under in that scenario if it was 2. I think a 1.5. You're probably taking the over, and that's considering that there's a lot of links right now to a right back, right wing back. There's names that Chelsea have considered. Malo Gusto, not Mucho Gusto, is one of them coming out of Ligue 1. Which
Mucho Gusto, come on.
Which if we look at the individuals we brought from Ligue 1 and not from Serie A in a defensive element right now, that those have been pretty good signings. So that might be one to consider.
Remember when everybody was saying that Chelsea was 100% going to sign a midfielder on loan by Thursday, and that came and went? And
are you saying, Brandon, and I think I'm reading into this maybe between the lines, that perhaps the IKTs still don't know what the fuck they're talking about out there?
I'm just saying I was told by many people.
It's a high risk, high reward game. You're going to be wrong a lot more than you.
Dartboard.
It is absolutely gambling with your social clout. But if you want to do that, that's good on you. I'll take the over. I'll take the over on 1.5. I think that I'm still holding out hope for Enzo. I think it's ridiculous. Nick is going to laugh me off the episode, and I'm just going to be done after this one take. But I don't know. I think a deal can still be done.
Nick was adamant that Deckers is far more important than Enzo on his Adam Newsom pod.
I still feel that way. Although apparently his head's been turned by Arsenal, so whatever. I think it's 2. I think there may be a loan in there, right? Like, I don't know if it's a midfielder on loan or some sort of right back on loan, but I don't think that would be the worst idea, just considering the squad, the breadth of the squad right now. It's really big, although 11 of them are hurt, which is not where you really want to be. But I would really, 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 really like to see a right back signed. I think that is even more than midfield right now. Like, I don't think Reece is going to be that healthy through the end of the year. I think you're going to have to bubble wrap him the best that you can. And, I don't think it's right for Trev to continue to play that like really weird inverted RCB RB role. Like, I think that's really tough. He's done it relatively well, but I think that's just something that I would look for. If we do go for Enzo, fuck it. I mean, why not? We're on a heater right now, so like, I just throw it all on the table, baby. I mean, let's make it happen. But I do think if you're able to get someone like Gusto's profile, who I think universally Chelsea youth tweeds in our big brains group, that's like a primo signing, like that would be fantastic.
Do you think Ruben could slot back in now that he's back to health as a wing back?
I do. I mean, that was the only thing giving me pause about that whole thing, is like, if he is healthy, then what does that look like? But I don't know if he's going to be healthy necessarily, which is if I'm saying that about Reece, and he's been out almost as long, right? I think Reece went out in October. He went out right before the World Cup, maybe a month less. Like that, I don't know if that's a sustainable option either. I mean, it's clear that Azpilicueta is kind of a pull in case of emergency option right now, right? So I don't think you're going to get Aspi starting every match, every other match. He might start every third match if we have a bunch going on in a week or something like that. But I don't think through the end of the year we're going to. So he might come in to close out games, Obi Mikel role, that would be cool. But I think you got to have some threat down that side because it balances the team. We remember how good we looked in the first 60 minutes against Bournemouth. We probably should have scored 4 or 5 goals in that. And it's because we had balance on both sides. So that's personally what I'm looking for.
Yeah, still too many left backs, not enough right backs. As far as departures go, I mean, it sounds silly to say that, right? Because you're like, well, of course not. Like, we're just talking about how we don't have enough depth. Newcastle apparently came sniffing strong. Connor, Ruben, Ziyech, just bundle them up, ship them up north. I don't see Connor leaving. I think we all are just waiting for the right bid to come in for Ziyech to go. Ruben's an interesting one. I think at this point they probably would let him go, especially if there's halfway reasonable money involved. But in general, I again, like, Chelsea's gonna have to think long and hard before they're to let anybody go in this team. I mean, and then you just say, hey, this summer, fine, like we can reload, but you let those guys go, especially Ziyech has kind of been the only one creating chances for us offensively the last couple matches.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that Madueke is going to stay healthy either. I mean, I think that's the one. As I was listening to the player profile, Dan, that you and Sam did, he's not, let's say, the most reliable player when it comes to injuries either. So, I think that it all becomes tricky. It's like, I feel like if we lose one of these players or two of them, that they're going to go on and star for those teams. And, ideally you'd like them to star for us in roles that maybe we don't have a ton of depth in. But if you feel like you're going to get Sterling back and you feel like Madueke is going to be healthy on that right side, Dan, then, I think you probably do let Ziyech go. And you might look at either Connor or Ruben and say, does either one of these have a real future if we're going after some of these big name midfield targets? I don't know.
You have Havertz and Joao Felix for the rest of the season, kind of playing the more central attacking role. I mean, Aubameyang could be another individual that, may be considered as a, surplus to requirements if you keep Datro Fofana around for the remainder of the season. So, I mean, there easily could be, and I think this is what we kind of heard from Naz too, is that the last day of the transfer window could involve a lot of activity for Chelsea, because this is the prelude to the summer clean out, and you got to start getting some wages off the books. Like that is the end of discussion. Like, you need to close out your fiscal year. You want to get some of these wages off the books. It might be a loan. It might be just cutting the buying club a little bit of a deal. Like, whatever it is, Chelsea are not in a great position because everybody knows we're gonna clear house. So that's the thing to consider, is that you might be like, wow, Chelsea did not get a whole lot for this older player who they don't want anymore. I mean, really, what we've seen over the past couple of seasons is the players we sell for the highest value have tended to be really talented youth players, for Kyle Tomori, Tammy Abraham, because they have been super talented and in high demand. And, from an English club to an English club, occasionally they are very high value. And so, like, that is something to keep in mind, is that there will likely be some type of outgoing. If we were doing the same line of 1.5, I feel like the 1.5 is the perfect placement. I don't know, maybe because of the injuries, if they don't know where they're at, they go under. But I could see that busting and being over without any issue. It's just going to depend upon how healthy those 10 or 11 people who are still on benches are come the end of the month.
It's also why, Brandon, like, I'm super excited to hear from Phil this week, right? Because, like, we know there's going to be a player clear out, and we know that he's consistently said the crop of youth players coming in at Chelsea are definitely going to even exceed expectations compared to where we think the academy is, right? So if you're able to move out some of these players who no longer fit your vision and bring in players who have been consistently trained, into the squad, not only do you reduce your wage bill, your liability, all that sort of stuff, but you're consistently providing the pipeline I mean, that is a massive, massive opportunity for Chelsea, and to prove that these youth signings aren't necessarily, or the younger player signings that we've had, average age 22.7, aren't necessarily going to block the path. They're just going to accentuate what's happening at the club.
And obviously more players are going to return to fitness. As we said, we'll kind of see how it all comes back. Like the squad is going to reshape again. If we get to the end of the season where everyone's healthy again, and like you got a good month together, I think that'll help with all those pieces shake out, but more to come on that. Dan of the match is back, thankfully, point earned. So here we go. Dan, you said, even though he was only a cameo, I'm putting Mudryk in because the replies will all be, quote, "Where's Mudryk if I don't?" How'd it go?
Look, it went well because people didn't come after me. So Thiago Silva, no surprise, 52% of the entrants gave him their vote. It was almost 20%, 19% from Mudryk and Badiashile at 18%. And then Ziyech at 10%, which I think really, I know you gave Jorginho the highest score for whatever weird site you're using. But this to me probably represents the 4 best individual contributors on the field in the day, but I might be wrong.
I think you got to have Jorginho in over Mudryk. No offense to Mudryk, and I know that he created some stuff and was exciting, but
redirect the haters to you.
Yeah,
it's an easy one, but again, Badiashile, Mudryk, Silva, I'm sorry, Badiashile, Mudryk, newer names, Silva, the just rock of the team. It makes sense. And Ziyech was obviously our most threatening crosser and deliver of the ball. So as it stands here, some of the results from the weekend, the only match to yet be played is Fulham versus Tottenham. And if Fulham beat Tottenham, Fulham go ahead of Tottenham in the Premier League table, which is wild. Yeah, we were the first game of the weekend. Leicester Brighton 2-2 shootout. Villa 1 Southampton 0. The relegation derby, West Ham 2 Everton 0. Does not sound like that's going to be good for Frank, as he literally is walking on eggshells. Bournemouth Nottingham Forest 1-1. Palace Newcastle 0-0. Man City today on Sunday 3-0 over Wolves. It took them a while to get going, but finally just turned it on, and a soft penalty, a dumb penalty from Wolves really just killed it off for themselves. Leeds Brentford 0-0. Arsenal United just finished 3-2, 90th minute winner from them. But if they would have dropped points, that would have been on them. They had like 25 shots, like 6 big chances. I mean, Arsenal absolutely dominated. They just couldn't defend at all. So I don't know. Nick, what was your pick of the weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to say. I watched a little bit of the Leicester Brighton game, and Leicester were up in that 2-1 for majority of the second half, and Brighton got a late winner through Ferguson, who is a
equalizer.
Late equalizer. My bad. Who is just a big drink of water up there. Got a nice little flicked header on and equalized the game for him. So that would have been nice to maybe get a point back on Brighton. But I mean, I will say the matches this weekend, from a quality perspective, maybe outside of the United Arsenal match, were shit. They were all pretty bad. There isn't anything to really pick out here to say, wow, there was an abundance of excitement created in any of these. So, it's the worst Premier League I've seen in my life, for sure. It's very, very bad across the board this year. And it's almost as if they have, taken away quality from all these matches that happened over the last 2 years, COVID, World Cups, all this sort of stuff. So I think naturally it will be pretty bad until like April. Maybe it might finish okay, but yeah, not great.
Even FPL is under 100, for the weekend. There's only 1 match left, which usually there's, some lucky squirrel finds a stack of nuts, and it's just not happening, this weekend. So that just kind of shows you where we're at. Just high level table stuff. Arsenal still on first on 50 points. Man City second on 45. Newcastle third on 39. United fourth on 39. Chelsea 10th on 29 points. Nick, you're saying earlier, Liverpool actually level on points with us on 29 points as well. So they're 9th. We're 10th due to goal difference. We're +1 on goal difference. So an area of weakness. The bottom is still an absolute traffic jam. Southampton in 20th on 15 points. Everton 19th on 15 points. Bournemouth 18th on 17 points. And then Wolves 17 on 17. West Ham 16 on 18. Leeds 5th on 18. Leicester City 14th on 18. So again, you got 6 teams at the bottom,
I mean,
avoiding the vortex.
It's crazy because Leicester City started off so bad. Forest started off so bad, right? And like Southampton, we lost to them.
We lost to Leeds. We got pummeled by Leeds. They're in 15th, like a couple points away from the drop.
I mean, I can't believe I went to the Southampton game now and we just got absolutely obliterated by Lavia, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a very bad league. I mean, from basically, I think, yeah, I would still throw Forest in there because I think they're a little weird as a squad, but they've really improved from Palace up to first. I mean, that feels okay. Boy, that's a 13 through 20 that you really, it's ugly. I mean, West Ham were bottom for a while. They've kind of clawed back. Wolves seem like they're relegation fodder. Bournemouth has basically dropped every point possible since appointing their new manager. So not great.
Well, not our problem. Thankfully, we've got our own, but it does kind of seem like a turn of the negative trajectory, right? Like I said, 2 games in a row picked up points, including Anfield away. No matter what you want to say, it's a tough day out. There's obviously more kind of mental side of it, maybe than actual on pitch. So go out there, get the point, move on. Like I said, 12 days off. So we got a bit of a rest, bit of a vacation until we look at Fulham again on the 3rd of February. And then not shortly after that, Champions League kicks back on. So this would be nice. Again, The one thing I was thinking about this today that we all need in life when something's not going right, we just need time, right? We need time to research, to practice, to do better. Potter's starting to get that time. Like I said, a week off before Liverpool, now 12 days off before Fulham. Hopefully that will help us get all the new signings bedded, players returning from injury. These are all things that are finally rolling in our favor that we didn't have, quite honestly, literally until this week. So potential, right? A little bit of positivity. It's not all the doom and gloom that we had even just a few weeks ago. So,
well, and look at this table, right? I mean, we're 10 points off of 4th as it stands right now. 10 points is not an incalculable amount to shoot up. We still have to play United again, right? Still have to play Spurs again. We still have to play Brighton again. We still have to play Fulham again, coming up very quickly. We have to play Liverpool again. So we have to, everyone that's in our path, now that we're about halfway through the season, I think we're exactly halfway through, a little more maybe. Everyone left in front of us, if we beat them, we begin to overtake, right? Now, that's saying a lot because we haven't beat a whole lot of teams this year. And so I'm just kind of giving you an uncharacteristic, optimistic view of where we could go. But
love it.
I mean, seriously, like if you start to beat these teams that are in front of you, which I don't think any of them are world beaters, right? Even we're actually 10 points off 3rd because Newcastle are in
Level.
3rd on 39. Yeah. So I'm not telling you we're going to finish top 4. In fact, I'm very sure we won't, but it's possible.
All right. Well,
and look, if you want to get Champions League next season, don't leave yourself up to the fates of the table. Just go win the Champions League. Way easier. Easier.
Like when we had to rely on Spurs on the last day of the season.
Yeah, don't do that again to us. Just go win the Champions League again. A way easier path. That is why reinforce, get that over 1.5 signings and set us up for success.
Easier path.
It is blown open. It is absolutely blown open. Right, well, I think it is the absolutely easier path. It's 7 games versus another 18. Way easier to plan for 7
World
versus
Cup
18.
Finals versus 18.
Well, no, you just no. And in the two matches, you just need to score 1 goal and then not concede another. Again, the calculus works in our favor.
I don't know why no one else has
so
done
easy
this.
A caveman could do it. Really, it's fantastic.
That's copywritten if you could not.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right, here's the deal. That was the most positive we've ever heard. Nick and Dan just completely blew it out of the water. So we're going to have to hit reset here. We're going to have to hit
just
pause.
let me have a moment, Geez.
I apologize for wearing the Why Not Us shirt and antagonizing Dan on this podcast. He just couldn't wait until the end. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it here. Dan titled the script Liverpool match review. So that's where we're going to end it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back with much more content this week from all the different, people that are involved with the show. We appreciate them all. Hope you enjoy it. Please leave us 5-star reviews. Sign up for the trip. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.